Without a doubt, it's clear that Iron Maiden has plenty of love for classic rock. Over the years, their B-sides have included covers of classics by Montrose, Jethro Tull, and Thin Lizzy. Songs like Sheriff of Huddersfield and Black Bart Blues demonstrate the sense of humor that the band has always had and seem to indicate that while many groups hated recording extra material for B-sides, Iron Maiden found a way to make it fun. Beyond that, there are Iron Maiden B-sides that are as good as anything that ever made it to the records, and sometimes, in the case of a song like Total Eclipse, better than what made the final album, something which vocalist Bruce Dickinson seems to agree with when it comes to that specific song. Ultimately, if all you've ever heard are the regular Iron Maiden albums, there's a lot more music that you haven't heard. We're here to share some of the very best Iron Maiden rarities that you might have missed with a playlist so that you can hear all of the songs. Let's start with one that's not a B-side or on an Iron Maiden album. As many will know, Bruce Dickinson was not Iron Maiden's original vocalist. And over the years, Dickinson has re-recorded some of the band's earliest material that was sung by Paul Di'Anno. This version of the title track to 1981's Killers album comes from Dickinson's audition for the band that same year. According to Dickinson, he auditioned for the group twice. They told him to learn 4 songs. He figured they only had 2 albums, so he learned all the songs on both records. And as he told Rolling Stone later, they bashed through a bunch of Deep Purple and Thin Lizzy covers after they were finished with the official audition. The audio of Dickinson's performance of Killers from that series of auditions offers proof why they ultimately felt confident about moving forward with their new lead singer. Going back a bit, there's a pair of B-sides from 1980 worthy of your attention. Burning Ambition shows up on the flip side of the Running Free single and musically has a bit of a progressive rock feeling. A live version of Drifter, a song which showed up a year later on the Killers record, makes an early appearance as the second track on the Sanctuary single. Paul Di'Anno leads the band through a spirited version of the song, which features a lengthy call and response section with the audience that teases Walking on the Moon by the Police. 1982's Total Eclipse is a song that when you hear it, you ask yourself, how did this not end up on the Number of the Beast? At the time, Total Eclipse and Gangland were neck and neck in contention for the record. As Bruce Dickinson shared during an appearance in Tampa, Florida on his spoken word tour in January of 2022, they ended up settling on Gangland, which they said was too good for a B-side. In retrospect, he calls Total Eclipse the most underrated Iron Maiden song. Adding an interesting additional anecdote, he says that they forgot to mix the guitar solos on Gangland. As we mentioned, Iron Maiden indulged their love for recording cover songs frequently when it came to making material for B-sides. 2 of the best emerged in 1983 as the group released their take on I Got the Fire by Montrose, retitling it slightly to I've Got the Fire, and also their version of Cross-Eyed Mary by Jethro Tull, No Flute Required. Their barnstorming version of Led Zeppelin's Communication Breakdown, released in 1990, is also essential. And since we mentioned Montrose, you'll want to hear their update of the San Francisco group's Space Station No. 5, which was released in 1992. The band's sense of humor is on full display with B-sides like Sheriff of Huddersfield, which takes a lighthearted dig at band manager Rod Smallwood. Take note of the modified Blues Brothers reference. We're on a mission from Rod. Smallwood had relocated to Los Angeles, and it wasn't going well. He complained frequently to the band about it. They decided to immortalize his trials and tribulations in song, something that he allegedly wasn't aware of until the track was released. You'll find that one on the B-side for the Wasted Years single, which also has another non-album track, Reach Out, featuring vocals from Maiden guitarist Adrian Smith. Black Bart Blues features a comedy sketch of sorts at the beginning, borrowing inspiration from an actual interaction with a female fan. The song also immortalizes the suit of armor which Bruce Dickinson acquired while traveling through Florida, and subsequently, they took the suit of armor on their bus, which was named Black Bart, for the entire tour. Okay, we know the Blaze Bayley era of Iron Maiden is a polarizing topic. The Birmingham vocalist stepped in during the early 90s for 2 albums and a number of tours after Dickinson left to pursue a solo career. The import singles for the group's Man on the Edge from 1995's The X Factor featured a total of 3 unreleased songs from the album sessions. You can also find those as a bonus disc on the Japanese version of the album. Justice of the Peace, a co-write between Steve Harris and Dave Murray, is arguably the best of the bunch and feels very much like something the group could have recorded with Dickinson. Judgment Day, a Bayley co-write, is also really strong. But in 1999, Iron Maiden fans finally got their wish, and the group reunited with Bruce Dickinson, who had been out of the lineup since going solo at the beginning of the 90s. They hit the road first with Dickinson, before releasing a new record, Brave New World, more than a year later, in May of 2000. But there was some new material for fans to enjoy, in the form of an updated version of Wrathchild, originally found on the Paul Di'Anno-era album Killers in 1981. Dickinson had previously tackled material from the Di'Anno period, recording versions of Prowler and Charlotte the Harlot in 1988. The new version of Wrathchild, which had been a highlight in the live setting for Dickinson and Maiden, appeared on the band's Ed Hunter Greatest Hits compilation, which also featured a video game of the same name on the third disc. We're guessing that game probably isn't playable anymore. The single for Wildest Dreams from 2003's Dance of Death album brings us an 8-minute opus past the jam on the B-side, adding some additional music on top of the record itself, which was already more than an hour in length. The song is a good, gritty, sludgy Maiden rocker that would be a fun setlist inclusion if the band ever decided to do a deep cuts tour. For vinyl fans, there's a version of the single on 7-inch green vinyl. At the time that Empire of the Clouds was released on the Book of Souls in 2015, it became Iron Maiden's longest song in their catalog, clocking in at 18 minutes in length, replacing the previous holder of that title, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which was almost 14 minutes. A 12-inch picture disc was released for Record Store Day in 2016, featuring a 21-minute interview with Dickinson and drummer Nico McBrain as the B-side, telling the story behind the creation of Empire of the Clouds. We'll close out with a couple of Dickinson nuggets. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter appears on Maiden's 1990 album No Prayer for the Dying, but a solo version from Dickinson appeared first in 1989 on the soundtrack for the movie Nightmare on Elm Street 5. The song is more easily accessible these days on the bonus disc for his 2001 Best of Bruce Dickinson compilation, which is also where you'll find a couple of new Dickinson solo tracks, including the absolutely fantastic Broken. So there's some of the best Iron Maiden rarities. Check out our playlist to hear all of the songs that we just talked about. Find more Maiden by clicking the link in this video's description, and make sure to subscribe to our UCR channel here on YouTube for all of the best news and history of classic rock and pop culture.